My daughter started going to the Infinity Math Institute about 3 months ago. I sent her there as a punishment because she got an F in math. Boy, was she mad at me. But 1 week later, she was talking about how much she liked it. Now she has an A in math and all her other grades have gone up too.
Get out of here. That sounds too good to be true.
I know, but it is true. When I went down there to check it out, I couldn't believe how nice everything was. Than any of the other places, and so much more effective. You should call them. They even have scholarships for families with financial struggles. Tell them Sharp and Shapiro sent you for a discount.
I will. What's their number?
702-768-1777. That's 768-1777, or you can visit them at themathinstitute.com. Don't get more math problems, get solutions.
SportsX Radio Nation, what's up? It's Ken Thompson, host of SportsX Radio, reminding you to catch me at my new time, 8 to 10 p.m. for all the local Vegas sports coverage, plus the national scene as well. That's SportsX Radio on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Court overturns. Public hearings. I'm Mike Moss. A federal judge in New York has struck down a rule letting healthcare clinicians object to providing abortions and other medical services on moral or religious grounds. The rule let clinicians object to providing abortions and other services that may conflict with their moral or religious beliefs. Impeachment Inquiry Chairman Adam Schiff says 3 witnesses are being called for the first open hearings next week.
Those open hearings will be an opportunity for the American people to evaluate the witnesses for themselves, to make their own determinations about the credibility of the witnesses, but also to learn firsthand about the facts of the president's misconduct.
A meeting between President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping to sign a long-awaited interim trade deal could be delayed until December. Discussions continue over terms and venue, according to a senior administration official. Democrat Andy Beshear claims victory in the Kentucky governor's race, though his margin of victory over incumbent Republican Matt Bevin is now less than 5,000 votes.
The election ended. It ended, and it's time to move forward.
Presumptive governor-elect of Kentucky, Democrat Andy Beshear, pushing for incumbent Matt Bevin to concede.
We have got to submit a budget, for instance, to the legislature near the end of January. That budget's going to be absolutely critical in its support of public education and of health care.
Last year, Kentucky teachers staged a walkout as Bevin rolled back their pension plans with the GOP legislature, and Bevin's attempts to roll back the expanded Medicaid system in the bluegrass state put health care as a major issue. Bevin is refusing to concede, citing voter irregularities. Bob Costantini, Washington.
Ford has unveiled an electric Mustang at the Las Vegas Car Show. The company wants to see if there's enough interest to put it into production. On Wall Street, stocks are down, the Dow off 46. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads in the KDWN Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Slowing for a crash I-15 northbound at Spring Mountain Road at the off-ramp, and an accident on I-15 southbound at Charleston. On the surface streets, an injury crash, Rainbow, south of Warm Springs, and a hit-and-run accident investigation continues on Buffalo, just north of the 215. Millions of Americans finance the home of their dreams with their help. They can help you too. Rocket Mortgage. Push button, get mortgage. John Michaels from the KDWN Traffic Center.
For more than a year, the whole of Vermont was captivated by the hunt for a runaway golden retriever. Read Catching Murphy, the latest book from the Associated Press. Available now exclusively at Amazon.com.
Las Vegas's only FM news talk station is right here. The new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
Well, I just want to say a very big hello, Kentucky.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro on a Wednesday. 2 guests in studio. I love having these guys go in and come in here and go at it, but it's respectful, and that's what I appreciated about both of them. Attorney Michael Avenatti and Danny Tarkanian in studio right now. We're also going to have Pat Casale, who is a Republican that's going to be getting in the ring with Michael coming up at the bottom of the hour, so stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun there. We're also broadcasting live on the Vegas Take YouTube page. Okay, Michael, you've been dying to ask Danny Tarkanian a question, so I said let's save it for the air. What is the question that you've been dying to ask Danny?
Danny, who do you think among the Democrats would have the best chance of beating Donald Trump in 2020? Recognizing that I know you believe that no one could possibly beat him. Who would have the best possible chance in your view?
Well, I would take Don Jr.'s favorite Democrat, Mitt Romney. No, look, I think Joe Biden.
I'll tell you what. I'll trade you Tulsi Gabbard for Mitt Romney.
I will take Tulsi in a second. I love her, and
I'm a huge fan of Tulsi too. Actually.
Absolutely. Look, I think Biden would normally have a good chance of beating Trump. Moderate, well established. I actually, a lot of his viewpoints I like. He's gone more to the left than I would now, but there are a lot of things that I liked about Biden. I think he would have gotten a lot of the moderate votes. The problem with him now, with this inquiry on the Ukraine matters, all that stuff, and anybody looks at his son making 80-some thousand a month and he had no experience doing it, it's going to question that. And, you got to be almost completely away from that to have a chance to win in this major race like this. So I think that hurts him. I think some of his gaffes hurt him. But if he did get the nomination, I think because of his policies and
I agree with
positions.
You. Anybody that listens to the show knows. I
know that you're a Biden supporter.
I'm a big backer of Joe Biden in 2020, not because I think he's my perfect candidate, not because I believe in all of his policy positions. I wish he was a little more progressive. But look, I want to win. And any Democrat that wants to win in 2020 needs to recognize that Joe Biden needs to be the nominee. Senator Nelson came out, I think, yesterday or the day before and said that if Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders were the nominee, that they could not win Florida. I mean, this is a former Democratic senator.
By the way, can I just say I hate it when you guys agree with each other because it's really bad for the show. Go ahead, JD.
No, Michael, do you think that Joe Biden has the long-term mental acuity to sustain a major role like the presidency of the United States over the next 4 or 5 years?
At this point, all I care about is whether he has the mental stability and ability to get through November 2020, and we'll sort out the rest from there, frankly.
Fair question. All right, we haven't talked about impeachment, Danny, so I want to get into this. Gordon Sondland now admitting that there is a quid pro quo. What do you say to that?
Well, again, you're misstating his deal, but you're parsing with words, or I'm going to get into why that doesn't matter, but you're misstating his statement. He said that it was his impression that there was a quid pro quo, but that President Trump had told him there wasn't. But to me, and I think the vast majority of Americans all believe the same thing, although there hasn't been a focus on this, and I don't know why President Trump's campaign isn't responded better. Look, you can argue. There's going to be two sides you argue. One is President Trump used the power and influence of the president's office to push for an investigation of his rival and withheld money to do that. Now, if that is...
That would be known as the truth.
If that is what the vast majority of Americans believe, then that's a serious problem. Whether it reaches an impeachable offense or not, I'm not so sure, because the impeaching a president should only be done in the highest examples and the worst stuff. I was one of the few Republicans that was against President Clinton's impeachment. I thought that was ridiculous. You don't remove somebody from office who's been duly elected unless it's very, very serious. But one argument is if you use his office to investigate his political opponent, there's a serious problem. But just as good an argument, and I think a better argument, I think a more clear argument, contrary to Michael's statement of the truth, is President Trump used the office of the president, the money that was going to be given in foreign aid, to pressure the government to stop the corruption that's in the government.
All right, let Michael respond.
Let me finish, because again, this is so misleading the way you learned it, and to stop the corruption in Ukraine and to investigate two issues of corruption that dealt directly with the United States, and that was the Biden's son working with the company that was already an investigation for corruption, and also the corruption dealing with the 2016 election. Now, if that's the case, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. For example, every single dollar that is given in foreign aid to another country is given to them because we want that country to act in a certain way. That's called a quid pro quid pro quo. So there's always, and I don't understand why they went after Mulvaney for speaking the truth. There's always quid pro quos. The question is, are you using it for your personal benefit to help you in a political campaign, or are you using it for the benefit to help the country?
I'm going to let Michael respond to that. It would take me 30 minutes to respond to that, but you're a smarter man than I.
First of all, the reason why people went after Mulvaney was because up until Mulvaney's statements, the word from the White House and the talking points that were being put out there by the Republicans were consistent, and that is that there was no quid pro quo. And then Mulvaney admitted there was a quid pro quo, and now you have the most recent admission that there was a quid pro quo. There's been a progression of talking points by the Republicans, and none of them have taken hold because each of them continues to get shot down. Look, here's the bottom line. The President of the United States sought assistance from a foreign power in connection with his ability to be reelected to the presidency of the United States. And I've said this all along, regardless of whether there was a quid pro quo, that's enough for him to be impeached in my view. Now we actually have testimony and evidence that there was a quid pro quo, that the president tied aid from the United States. These are not his monies. It's not like he called up the president of Ukraine and said, I'm going to send you $400 million from the Trump organization if you help me out in my election. I think that also would be improper. That would also be enough. But that's not what he did. He tied aid from the United States of America to getting assistance in an election to beat a political opponent. And this idea that Donald Trump, of all the corruption in the world, all the corruption in the United States, the corruption that he just happened to focus on, coincidentally, related to his 2016 election and his 2020 election with Hunter Biden, I'm not buying it, Danny. And I don't think that, you know what, I don't think in your heart of hearts, I don't think you're buying it because it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense, and it's not, you're smarter than that.
Don't phrase my heart.
Okay, but I'm telling you, but it's you're smarter than that. You know, and I know that it was not a coincidence that what Trump was focused on was Hunter Biden and the 2016 election, and he tied the aid from America to getting assistance to defeat Joe Biden.
Okay, look, there's no doubt that you would take that position because you are very strongly against President Trump and you want to put the worst out there from him, just like those people that are testifying, the ambassadors and all the other ones that are coming out that don't like Trump because he fired them. They're coming out and saying that he did this because of
Danny, the guy. I got to interrupt. Danny, the guy that fired the rocket-propelled grenade yesterday into the White House and changed his testimony, gave $1 million to Donald Trump, and that's how he got the ambassadorship. He was a huge supporter of the president.
Okay, now if you let me finish, because you are now taking away from my cognizant statement of explaining how you're completely wrong. Okay. As I said, the ambassadors that he's fired have come out and said, hey, he did this because he wanted to go after a political opponent. And that's the distinction you don't want to make. Your distinction is definitely he went after a political opponent. No, just as easily, and I believe more realistic and more and likely more true, is he put pressure on the Ukraine government to clean up corruption, and two of those parts of the corruption dealt directly with the United States government and directly with Joe Biden. And Joe Biden was in charge of cleaning up corruption, and he's the one who got on TV and threatened to withhold the money. No, let me finish, because this is you want to take away the attention. Definitely, I agree with your comment that pressuring another government, whether there's a quid pro quo or not, for personal benefit, politically, particularly with the political benefit from it, if that was his intent, he would have serious problems. But his statement, and I don't know why his campaign isn't making this more clearly, is that is not the purpose. The purpose was to root out corruption. The money we were given to Ukraine was because we wanted them to clean up their government and stop the corruption, and that's what it's for. Why would anybody be against holding up that money if the corruption is still there? And when you talk about this guy who gave $1 million to Trump's campaign, he said, again, you keep misstating his comments. He said it was his impression there was a quid pro quo. I don't care if there was or not, but he said that's not what President Trump told him. But what this guy is also saying, if you read his comment, in fact, I kept it right here. This is from the Boston Globe, where he says, let me see if I can find it real quick without wasting time. Either way, he said that the reason the money was held up was to stop the corruption in Ukraine. If the money was held up to stop corruption in Ukraine, there's absolutely nothing wrong. And in fact, I would argue it would be derelict duties of the president if he didn't do that.
Danny, the president put Rudy Giuliani on point in connection with this, his own personal attorney. Okay, he doesn't work for the State Department. He doesn't have a formal role in foreign policy. Why did he put Rudy Giuliani on point? Because he needed to make sure that this was covered up, that it was handled quietly, that it was handled behind the scenes, because he knew what he was doing was wrong. You don't involve your personal attorney in the foreign relations, legitimate foreign relations of the United States of America. He did it because this is one of his go-to guys. Rudy is somebody that he thought he could trust, that Rudy would get this done. He would handle it. He would make sure that this investigation was done for political purposes. But look, this idea that Donald Trump, of all the corruption in the world, everywhere, including the corruption in the United States, which is rampant, it just so happens that he decides to focus on this corruption involving alleged corruption involving Hunter Biden in the 2016 election. It makes no sense. And by the way, why did they then release the money 2 days after the story broke?
Is that just a coincidence?
No, look, you're way too.
What was the corruption over?
You're way.
The corruption between the 9th, September 9th, the story breaks, and in 2 days, the Ukraine cleaned up the corruption. They released the money. Unbelievable. 48 hours later, all the corruption was good.
Must be a coincidence.
So now I can talk. You are way too smart, and every listener understands that nobody would hire Rudy Giuliani to do something quietly. Okay? Anybody disagree with that that's listening to this show? Of course not.
Well, he was doing a lot quietly.
Let me finish for a second. Rudy Giuliani was hired, was asked to go investigate this because this dealt directly with the inquiry of the Russian interference, and that was Trump's attorney that was involved in that, and he was looking into Ukraine. You know, it was amazing how all the Democrats wanted the United States to spend hundreds of millions of dollars and go through 2 years of this Mueller investigation to find the real truth of what happened with Russia collusion, and then Donald Trump asked that it happens in Ukraine so we can get to the bottom of it, and now they're throwing a sissy fit. I mean, really, the reason Giuliani was involved was to get to the bottom of exactly what the Democrats have been demanding for years: find out what really happened with the interference in the last election.
Danny, can we agree that at least in light of the Mueller investigation and the accusations relating to Russia collusion, can we agree that at a minimum, Donald Trump was a moron for even putting himself in this position with the Ukraine and even being on this call and raising Joe Biden's name and Hunter Biden and utilizing Rudy Giuliani? Can we agree, whether it was proper or not, can we agree that putting yourself in that position in light of what he just went through with Mueller and Russia was beyond stupid?
Danny, would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, you're characterizing the word beyond stupid. Okay.
How about just stupid?
I would not. I would. I think it's a very bad move for the president because it allowed his enemies to twist what he did around and create another way to continue the investigations on him, which are going to run over into the 2020 elections. I think he should have done it. This is his problem, though. He's always been this way. He fights and he says things he shouldn't say, and he probably should have let this thing go.
Do you think that he even needed to do this? Because I don't. I think that he kind of had this, in my personal opinion, I think he had this thing in the bag against Joe Biden. I don't think Joe Biden was that big of an opponent to him.
Of course, and that's what I'm saying. I agree that, first of all, forget whether it was Joe Biden, he was scared about this. He didn't need to do this. They're already investigating this with the other investigator. I forget his name now. They're going through all this stuff. He didn't have to do this. He did it because it's something that really bothers him. And I'll tell you what, every listener out there, how mad would you be if you legally and legitimately win an election and you go through 3 years of this garbage of this Russian interference, which you've then exonerated from, and then you find out all that during this time how the Democrats, Hillary Clinton's campaign and DNC was working through Ukraine and other countries to try to dig up dirt on him. Wouldn't you want to get to the bottom of it and expose that? I mean, I would too, but again, he didn't need it. It wasn't going to affect his elections, and it gave the Democrats another bullet to go after him with.
You know the last president that engaged in illegal conduct when he didn't have to? Richard Nixon.
No, I think
that's the same thing. Richard Nixon didn't have to engage in
first of all, you called
burglary.
You called it illegal conduct.
I believe
it's not
it is illegal.
Well,
no, I believe it's
course.
bribery. I believe it's bribery at a minimum.
Of course, the left is going to say it was done to affect the political campaign, and people with a reasonable understanding are going to say, well, no, look, there's corruption there. We're not going to give $1 billion of aid to a country to stop corruption if we're not going to ask them to look at the corruption involving the United States government in and of itself.
Well, listen, let's end it. I know, Danny, you have another place that you have to be.
Yeah, I got to go.
But let me just say this. I appreciate you coming in. I always do, and I respect your opinion, and it's always a great conversation when you two guys go at it. I just, listen, this is one of the few times in my life I just sit back and shut up, right, JD? I just want to hear these.
I'll tell you what, your listeners probably really appreciate
it. Feels
that.
good.
I like Danny.
That's debatable.
I disagree with him on many things, but I think he's a good guy.
Well, Danny, I appreciate you coming in. I really do. All right, we'll take a quick break.
Thanks a lot, Danny.
We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
Are you interested in owning rental properties right here in the Las Vegas area? Auction.com, the nation's leading real estate auctioneer, must sell 102 rental properties in the Las Vegas and Henderson markets. These are turnkey, income-producing single-family homes and condos with tenants and leases in place. That's right, the tenants are in place and currently paying rent on over 100 homes to be auctioned individually at auction.com/radio. Financing is available, and a broker co-op is being offered for this one-time unprecedented online auction to be held November 11th through 13th. Add more rentals to your portfolio, diversify your investments to add real estate, or buy your very first real estate investment. This is an auction that can't be missed. View all homes and auction details at auction.com/radio. That's www.auction.com/radio. Auction is subject to a reserve.
Psst, Bob, quick! The neighbors. There they go again. Jeez, it's like clockwork. Every weekend, he grabs his clubs, she grabs a duffel, and they're gone for the night. And when they come back, they look so relaxed and happy. Where do you think they go?
Well, they're not rich, so it must be affordable. Maybe some kind of marriage retreat?
Oh, right, with golf clubs. And she looks so refreshed.
We could use some of whatever it is. Go ask them when they get back.
Well, they're back, and you won't believe it.
Surprise me.
They've been going to Casablanca Resort in Mesquite on that $99 room and golf getaway. Sometimes they go for the $99 room and spa getaway. They love it.
Hey, we can afford $99, and it's only a little more than an hour's drive. Let's treat ourselves.
Book your $99 room and golf or spa getaway today at mesquitegaming.com or call 877-GETAWAY. Casablanca Resort in Mesquite, just like Vegas used to be. Must be 21 years or older.
Hi, Doug Basham here. Join me Saturday afternoons from 2 to 4, and I'll tell you what your conservative, corporate-controlled, right-wing propaganda hate media isn't. You're welcome. That's Saturday afternoons, 2 to 4. Be there.
Are you ready for a whole new way of doing business? The Human Resources Game Changer is here. Hello, friends. Jim Nance letting you know that Insperity has put down roots in Las Vegas, bringing you a different kind of HR service. Human resource expertise, employee benefits, HR software. Insperity will redefine everything you thought you knew about an HR company. Get to know Insperity Vegas, because finally the HR Game Changer is here. Visit Insperity.com to find out more.
Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, taking Nevadans to Capitol Hill for the latest on the federal issues that matter most to you.
Eye on Washington, Saturday morning at 9:30 on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
My father put the transcript out. Read it.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. If only we were recording what we were just talking about off the air. We can't really talk about it on the air, but it was a pretty funny conversation about racism. Maybe at some point down the road we will talk about it. We're joined in studio by Michael Avenatti. Coming up here in just a few minutes, somebody else getting in the ring with Michael, Pat Casale, will be joining us here in just a few minutes. But Michael, I heard a rumor that you were just tearing up Vegas last night. You were at the $5 blackjack table. Is that true?
$1, but it was a good night. It was a long run.
Explain.
I played 7 hours at the dollar table.
It must have been at Joker's Wild on the Boulder Highway.
Wait. Did you sleep, Michael?
No.
What is it? You were telling me.
Who comes to Vegas to sleep? Are you supposed to sleep in Vegas?
I love that.
I would imagine you don't want to get into this, but I would imagine a man like yourself, very successful, you come out here for a good time. You've had some fun nights in Vegas. Did you ever hang out with the Mooch in Vegas?
I have not hung out with the Mooch in Vegas, although, I'm a fan of the Mooches. I'm a friend of the Mooches. I have a lot of respect for him. I took a lot of heat from some friends of mine on the left last year when he was still solidly in Trump's camp. The Mooch is a very smart guy. A lot of people right now I know on the right aren't happy with him because of his statements concerning Trump. But you know, I have to tell you, he's a smart guy. I like him quite a bit. We've never hung out in Vegas, but you know, I love Vegas. It's a great city. I've had a lot of fun here, and it's a really the city's exploding. I mean, with the Raiders coming here, and I think Vegas is one of the great cities in America.
I have to ask, with all the TV appearances you made and everything, when you show up at a blackjack table on the Strip, are there people that automatically recognize you? I would imagine there are, right? And how does that conversation go? How does that play out?
Yeah, there's a number of people. I mean, look, you can't do 300 television interviews in a 12-month time period and not have people start to recognize you. But you know, all in all, it's very positive. No matter where I go, when people recognize me, people are respectful. I haven't had too many people give me a hard time. But you know, it's funny because one of the guys at the blackjack tables last night asked me whether whether that was a positive or a negative. And I said, you know, for the most part, it's positive, but it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative because you can't, or celebrities or athletes or others, you know, when they complain about they can't go out or people want to take pictures with them, et cetera, I think it's nonsense. I think it's a bunch of BS, right? If you put yourself in that position, you can't complain when people want to take pictures of you, et cetera. The only thing that bothers me, or probably the thing that bothers me the most is if I catch somebody taking a picture or a video of me, like from across a room, or trying to do or trying to do it, you know, surreptitiously or something like that. You know, that I don't like. I've never turned down anybody for a picture. Yeah. You know, even when I knew they were a Trumper. Right. You know, and otherwise I don't do it.
Has anyone ever called you Fredo? Has anyone ever went up to you and called you Fredo before?
Not in person.
No. What do you think about that, though, with the whole Cuomo thing? I don't blame him for being pissed off, and he knows he didn't handle it the right way. But when you're with your family and some jackass comes up to you, I mean, that's got to be annoying, right? What if you're with one of your kids? Does that ever happen?
Well, no, it has happened, and I'm especially sensitive when I'm around my kids, when people come up or they want to, you know, engage with me or make some verbal attack or, you know, call me the creepy porn lawyer or something like that. You know, to do that in front of somebody's kids, I think is entirely, you know, off limits. I mean, look, I've spent a fair amount of time around Chris Cuomo, and I have a lot of respect for him. And you know, at first he and I kind of butted heads a little bit, but we got to a good place, and I think he's a very smart guy. But let me tell you something: if there's a dude that you don't want to pick a fight with, it's Chris Cuomo. You don't want to. You don't want to get in. You don't want to get into a physical. You do not want to get into a physical altercation with Chris Cuomo, and the guy in that video would have had his ass handed to him had that become physical.
So I want to give this an opportunity for you. I know there's a lot of things that you cannot talk about right now. You're involved with a lot of different cases and a lot of situations, and I respect that. But there's a lot of people out there that support you and a lot of people that don't support you that want to have some sort of update. What can you tell us about some of these cases? And again, I know you're limited to what you can say. You got the Stormy Daniels case. You got the Nike case. You got this other case in California. What can you tell us about what is upcoming for you?
So the next, you know, probably big moment among these cases is there's going to be a trial on January 21st in New York relating to the allegations surrounding Nike. And, you know, we estimate that trial is going to last a couple weeks. And I'm looking forward to trying that case. I'm anxious to have a jury actually hear the evidence. I'm anxious for the public, frankly, to hear the evidence and to really learn about what happened in connection with that case and what didn't happen in connection with that case. You know, that was a 4-day federal, quote, investigation, close quote, before the decision was made to arrest me and charge me in connection with that case. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be opened when we try that case as to what happened and what didn't happen.
You know, I'm thinking,
and you know, look, we got a long road ahead of us. You know, I'm facing some very serious charges, some very serious allegations. It's not a coincidence that I was the president's biggest opponent in 2018 and a significant threat, and now I find myself on the other side of the Department of Justice. And I think as weeks play out, you know, people's eyes are starting to open and they're starting to realize that the Department of Justice has been weaponized against Donald Trump's enemies. It's not just me, but it's many others. And every week there's another revelation that supports my position on that. But look, we're going to take this one case at a time, and I'm looking forward to the truth and the facts, and I have confidence in the jury system.
No doubt in your mind that if Donald Trump doesn't win the 2016 elections, you wouldn't be facing any of these cases right now.
No doubt in my mind I want to be facing the cases, and I want to be sitting here right now, frankly, and I would have never come to represent Stormy Daniels, and I would have never done the TV interviews, et cetera. And, you know, look, I struggle day in and day out as to whether it's been a good thing or a bad thing. I took the Stormy Daniels case for the right reason. I did not take it to get on television. I had no idea at the time that the amount of exposure that would result, I should say. And, I took it for the right reasons. I took it because I care about this country. I love the United States of America. I'm very, very concerned about Donald Trump remaining president of the United States of America, because I think that once a lot of people realize how dangerous that is, it may be too late.
Did you think if somebody asked you 20 years ago that on national television a couple buffoons would be calling you the creepy porn lawyer, did you ever think to yourself that one day somebody would label you as that? Did you ever think that?
No, I didn't think that. I mean, I've represented one porn star in my entire career. I had a chance to represent a lot of adult film stars, porn stars in L.A. over my 20-year legal career. I didn't represent any of them, not because I don't respect them, but just because they didn't have cases that I normally get involved in.
Mm-hmm.
But, look, the right and Tucker Carlson and others, they've got to label people. This is part of what they do, and this is why, for instance, Trump wants to out the whistleblower. He wants to out the whistleblower because they want to be able to label this guy. They want to be able to dig into his background. They want to be able to kneecap him and make him the enemy. They need somebody other than Schiff and others because it's not entirely effective thus far. They've got to basically come up with somebody to make the enemy in connection with this, and that's why they want to out the whistleblower.
Your life in the last 2 years is just so fascinating to me. Is unbelievable. So coming up next, though, we have somebody else that was willing to get in the ring with you. He is a Republican. He has run for office in the past. His name is Pat Casale. He also used to do a show here on KDWN. We're going to talk a little bit more about the impeachment process, and you guys will go at it. Pat Casale will be joining us next. We are joined in studio by attorney Michael Avenatti as well. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. Pat Casale joining us on the line with Michael Avenatti, and we'll touch on some of those other subjects maybe we haven't gotten to yet. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
The impeachment inquiry's first public hearings are scheduled for next week, and we'll hear from Marie Yovanovitch, George Kent, and Bill Taylor. We get more from correspondent Phil Mattingly.
Republicans now have 72 hours to propose their own witnesses, minority witnesses, to join those hearings. It'll be interesting to see who they propose, what their strategy is on that front.
State Department official David Hale is testifying today behind closed doors. Mexican officials say gunmen who killed 9 U.S. citizens, 3 women and 6 children, may have mistaken the group's large SUVs for those of a rival drug gang. Mexico's Army's chief says that the attackers let some surviving children go, indicating, at least to him, that it was not a targeted attack. 35 years in Congress is enough for Indiana Representative Pete Visclosky. Visclosky announced today he will not seek re-election in 2020. On Wall Street, stocks are down, with the Dow off about 10 points at this hour. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads in the Kaos Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, slowing for a crash I-15 northbound at Spring Mountain Road at the off-ramp, and an accident on I-15 southbound at Charleston. On the surface streets, an injury crash, Rainbow, south of Warm Springs, and a hit-and-run accident investigation continues on Buffalo, just north of the 215. Millions of Americans finance the home of their dreams with their help. They can help you too. Rocket Mortgage. Push button, get mortgage. John Michaels from the Kaos Traffic Center.
Are you ready to experience a whole new way of doing business? The Human Resources Game Changer is here. Hello friends, Jim Nance here, letting you know that Insperity is now local right here in Las Vegas, bringing you a different kind of HR service. You know, running a successful business is complicated with ever-changing laws and regulations, benefit plans, insurance. It can be downright overwhelming. Insperity helps to remove those obstacles that your business faces. Full-service HR, employee benefits, and HR software have never been so easy. Insperity has put down roots here with a team that knows what it means to be a true HR partner. They redefine everything you thought you knew about an HR company. Get to know Insperity Vegas. Finally, the HR game changer is here. Visit Insperity.com to find out more.
O'Reilly. This is Jesse's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
As a nurse, not making it to work was not an option. But driving through the snow with my wiper blades struggling, I just didn't feel safe. So I pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts, and before I knew it, an employee was offering to install the wiper blades on my car. I got to stay out of the snow for a moment, and I still made it to work on time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey, it's Brian Shapiro from the Vegas Take Care, and now it's time for Infinity's Fun Fact of the Day.
A googol is 1 and 100 zeros. This number was defined by American mathematician Edward Kasner in the 1930s. His 9-year-old son made up the word, which led to the name Google. So the most influential company in the world today got its name from a 9-year-old in the 1930s.
Don't forget to visit themathinstitute.com for more information on how to make your child the most successful student they can be.
Distracted driving means danger,
recklessness,
irresponsible,
chaos, police, devastation,
injury,
tears,
death. Safe driving means staying alert and staying alive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON.
Come on, man. And with the local DBC News, LL Cool J with the 25
Racist.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro, having some more interesting conversations. Can I just say this? You know, if somebody asked me, this is the great thing about doing radio. If somebody asked me, like, I don't know, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, or even 2 years ago, if I'd be in the same room with one of my favorite college basketball coaches of all time and Michael Avenatti, I would have said, you're on cocaine.
You'd have said, who the hell is Michael Avenatti?
Well, 5 years ago.
Definitely said that.
You're probably
Absolutely.
right about that. Okay, I'll be honest. I didn't know who you were before this whole thing went out with Stormy Daniels, but it's crazy. Like, I didn't think I'd ever get these two guys in the same room.
I want to mention something from the last segment, but the flip side, to getting all this publicity is that if you didn't have this publicity, nobody with this Nike case, they wouldn't have been taken seriously. A different attorney would not have been taken seriously. True or false?
True. Look, in the history, I'm just going to say this. In the history of the United States, there has never been a federal prosecution, successful federal prosecution, or even a trial, to the best of my knowledge, of any attorney who engaged in any similar conduct. So
well,
and that tells you everything you need to know about what's going on here. But look, I got to be very careful on what I'm going to say, and I'm looking forward to this trial in New York in January very much.
And we hope it turns out the way we hope it turns out for you. So we have a very special guest on the line with us right now. Used to do a show here at KDWN. He is a Republican, and he said he's willing to get in the ring with Michael Avenatti. And I said, let's do it. We've done it before. Let's do it again. We just had Danny Tarkanian. Now Pat Casale. I almost call you Pat Cadell, the late Pat Cadell, for some reason. I don't know why, Pat. But, Pat, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Very good, and I don't want to be the late one, so I'm glad I'm
No,
here.
we want you to be here, Pat. We love you. So, Pat, here's what I want to start with. A lot of people on the right seem to still think that the transcript between the President of the United States and the President of the Ukraine is a farce, and it is a nothing burger, and I know that you are one of those people that believes that. Explain to us why you feel that way, and then I'm going to let Michael and you take it over from there. Why do you feel that way?
Because based on everything I read, there's nothing there that would constitute what I would consider a quid pro quo of magnitude. It's nothing that we haven't done for years. So to me, it's not that big a deal. I mean, it just seems that they're trying to do everything they can to try to defeat the president, and yet nothing gets done in Washington. I mean, they can't get anything done because all they keep doing is going after him over crap. Why not just put together a strong push for the 2020 elections and defeat him without having to consistently make everything look bad? I think they're hurting themselves. They're hurting the country. I mean, I really don't see this as a big deal. I really don't.
What do you say to that, Michael?
Well, I mean, a couple things. First of all, and I've made this point in the past, it's not a transcript. It's a summary of the call. It is not a verbatim transcript. And actually, in light of the testimony of the last week, what we've learned is that others that listened to the call had requested that words be put in the summary, and that request was denied by the White House counsel because those words were not helpful to the president, and they were concerned about what those words might mean for the president. But look, I don't care whether there's been a quid pro quo. I keep making this point. There doesn't have to be a quid pro quo for there to be an impeachable offense. The President of the United States cannot reach out to a foreign power and request assistance politically for his own individual purposes, namely for re-election in 2020. The mere asking is an impeachable offense. And the reason is because the fact that you have the President of the United States, the President of the most powerful country on earth, asking for a favor of a foreign leader is a problem. Because anytime you ask anybody for a favor, whether it's your spouse or one of your kids or somebody else, there's always something that goes along with it. Maybe not at that particular point in time, but all of a sudden the other party believes at least they have a little bit of leverage on you. And there is the problem. There is the quid pro quo. You don't have to have a quid pro quo, though.
In response to, I got to say here, if I thought the same way you're thinking right now, if it was clear that he was looking for information against Biden for 2020, I would definitely say I would have to lean towards your side. However, I don't think that was the case. For the last 2 years, they were talking about what the Bidens did prior to him even announcing he was going to run for president. And to be frank, he was basically looking to find out what happened in 2016. He wanted to see what was going on, and he wanted to discuss what Biden happened to go on press on television talking about. Hey, I told the guy, if you don't fire this guy, you're not going to get $1 billion. And they fired him. So,
yeah, but the history of that.
If he doesn't do that, I would sit there and say, okay, maybe you got something on Trump trying to go after Biden for the election. But Biden right now is not even going to be the candidate the way things are looking. So the bottom line is I don't think he was looking for information to beat him in an election. I think he was looking at what happened in 2016. I want to know who was involved with tampering with our elections. I want to know what proof you have, and he figured this new president would work with him. That's what I read or the way I interpreted what was said. So basically what you have here is interpretation, and it goes either way. But if it was specifically for the 2020 elections, then President Trump would be wrong.
Well, look, I don't think there's any question that it related to the 2020 election. I mean, this whole idea that of all the corruption in the world, I made this point the last segment, all the corruption in the world in the United States, all of a sudden Donald Trump wants to focus on this alleged corruption in Ukraine, and it had nothing to do with his election in 2020 and his efforts to discredit Joe Biden. I'm not buying it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not. This isn't just some coincidence. And I also disagree with you relating to the fact that it doesn't look like Joe Biden's going to be the nominee. I mean, look, I think that my party has a 50-50 shot of screwing this up because they have a long history of screwing up elections, especially at the national level. And I'll never doubt their ability to do it. And I think it will be a major screw-up if they don't nominate Joe Biden. But everything at this point appears to suggest that they are going to nominate Joe Biden. He continues to lead in many of the polls nationally. There's a lot of Democrats that recognize the issue that I've raised, which is he has the best shot of beating Donald Trump, including or most importantly, in the 5 or 6 states that are ultimately going to matter. And therefore, I think he will be the nominee. And I do think that he will defeat Donald Trump in November of 2020, especially in those key states.
If the people in our country continue leaning so far left, and I have to sit there and say with confidence, I pray to God it is Biden, not because I think Trump is a lock to win, but at least it will have 2 individuals running for the White House that are definitely not going to sell our country out and bankrupt us. But, I mean, right now, the way people are leaning to the left and, Medicare for all sounds like the solution, and those numbers that were projected by Elizabeth Warren are totally inaccurate. First of all, it's more like 5 million jobs, and 5.2 trillion to be more like 10 trillion. And the fact that 56% of the population actually, or in the United States, pay federal income tax, there's no way that they can facilitate her plan.
And as a precursor, Michael, Pat is a very successful insurance salesperson in Las Vegas. That's why he has such information.
So Pat, let me ask you. You're a business person here in Vegas. I mean, you're clearly a smart guy. Let me ask you this question: of all the Democrats running or likely to run against Trump in November 2020, who do you think has the best shot of beating him? And I know you believe he's going to be reelected, but who among them would have the best shot in your view?
At the present time, the batting order that they put on stage right now that are going to be on stage, none of the above I would look at. I mean, Gabbard, I think I would be strong because of her.
No, I'm sorry. I said Democrat. I said Democrats.
Well, all right. But the guy I thought, who I would support, honestly, I thought John Delaney was very, very strong. I was hoping Schultz, even though he was going to run as an independent, would run, because then we're talking about people that are running that understand what it takes to be an American president. The fact that you have everybody up there on the stage talking about selling out the farm, giving things away, is going to kill what they're trying to do.
Pat,
maybe Buttigieg.
All right, so Pat, of the people in the race right now, who do you think? Not in your heart or not what you would hope, but I mean, you deal with people all the time in your business. And so who do you think would have the best shot of beating Donald Trump of the people in the race?
You're going to laugh, but I'm going to say Mayor Pete.
No, I'm not going to laugh because, I've spent some time with Mayor Pete way back when I was traveling the country last year thinking about running myself. And I have a lot of respect for Mayor Pete. He's, I'll tell you this, he's the smartest guy in the race by far. There's no question about that.
We agree 100% on that.
Yeah, he's the smartest guy in the race. I have a lot of respect for him. Very articulate. I think he'd make a great president of the United States. I have serious questions as to whether he can actually match up well against Donald Trump, especially in those key 5 or 6 states. In fact, I have serious doubts as to whether he could pull it off. I think if you look at where we are right now, if you look at Donald Trump's rhetoric and the way that he campaigns, you look at some of the polling data from those key 5 or 6 states, I think there's really only one choice, and that's Joe Biden. And I think the Democrats need to nominate Joe Biden. Is he perfect? No, he's not close to perfect. But I don't think the Democrats should allow perfect to be the enemy of the good.
Pat, I don't, Michael, I got to tell you, I think that your side right now is blinded by listening to the Pocahontases of the world. I'm sorry I said that, but I feel, and Bernie. I mean, they're talking stupid, and the American people or the youngsters think, oh, this is great. Socialism works. I just don't see it happen.
Pat, I have to tell you, if the Democrats, and this is not a knock, I agree with Senator Nelson out of Florida in his comments in the last 48 hours. If the Democrats nominate Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and this is not an indictment of their policies or whether I like them or whether I think they'd make a great president. I'm just talking about who can win. If the Democrats nominate Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, I think Trump's going to be reelected.
Pat, I got to tell you something. That's exactly what I would say. And at this moment, the only problem your guys having is raising money. I mean, honestly, I don't understand how anybody in the United States of America can possibly support Elizabeth Warren's point of view or Bernie's. There's just no chance. You're gonna lose jobs, and at least Bernie's honest enough to say we're gonna have to tax everybody.
Can I jump in here as an independent? Okay, and then I know JD wants to jump in. Let me just jump in and say this. As an independent, okay, you're right. I don't agree with many of the policies of Bernie Sanders. I would never call her Pocahontas because I think that's racist, and I think you're getting that from the Donald Trump playbook. And it's
what you did. Bro.
Well, I mean,
the fact that she came out and had a blood.
I mean, Brian, she put that upon herself. She's 0.0001% Native American.
Okay, well, the bottom line is it's
a joke.
Okay, but that is that's out of the Donald Trump playbook, who seems to go after anyone and everyone with 10-year-old insults, and I'm not about to do that. But let me finish my statement. But let me just finish my statement real quick, okay? I respect Bernie Sanders. Do you know why I respect Bernie Sanders? Because nobody gave him a $500 million company, okay? Nobody gave him what Donald Trump was given to him by his father, okay? Everything was given to Donald Trump. Doesn't mean Donald Trump hasn't done well with himself, okay? But I respect Bernie Sanders. He's been a civil rights activist his whole life. He is a good man. And I'm going to tell you something. I'd rather vote for somebody and disagree with their policies than vote for somebody like Donald Trump, who is the insulter-in-chief, who acts like a 10-year-old, who stands up there on a stage with some of the leaders of the world like Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin and embarrasses the world, okay? Embarrasses this country, and he's an embarrassment to the world.
If you look at what's accomplished, Brian, though, if you didn't know it was Trump.
Unemployment numbers are down. The economy's great. It doesn't
way
It doesn't
down.
excuse his ridiculous
Jobs
behavior.
are up. Stock market's as high as it's ever been.
It's on an all-time high, and their unemployment numbers are at an all-time low.
Let me ask you a question, Pat. You have kids. Pat,
how's that happening?
Pat, you have kids, okay? Would you say do what Donald Trump does? Behave like Donald Trump does. Does he set a great example for the country? Is he the kind of leader that you want your kids to grow up to be?
Well, I ask you a question.
I just asked you a question.
When you look at the politicians of America today, you show me the perfect. They all
I never used the word perfect, but I'm going to tell you something about Barack Obama.
Brian does want Larry Poppins to be president.
No, I never said that.
Perfect Larry Poppins.
That's incorrect. That's a lie.
He can have no flaws.
No, that's incorrect. Let me tell you something about Barack Obama. Let me tell you something about Barack Obama. Okay, I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I don't agree with him with the way he handled certain situations and policies. But one thing I always say about Barack Obama, he is a good husband, he is a good father, he is well-spoken, and he is a decent, good man. Did you hear?
Outside, how do you know he's a good husband and a good father?
Oh, do you think Barack Obama's cheated on Michelle? What
No,
evidence do you have to support that?
I asked you a question. I'm asking you what defines good? What makes him a good husband and good father?
Good question. I'll give you an answer, okay? First of all, for as far as what we know, Barack Obama is a faithful man who has one wife, doesn't have several different ex-wives. Last I checked, he didn't
Easy
make a,
now.
Michael, do you have any information that Barack Obama made a payment of $120,000? Because last I checked, Michael, you were on a case.
No, but you know what though? After I saw the president feel up the Nats player, I think his claim's worth at least $131,000.
I think Suzuki actually enjoyed that. Michael.
Look, Suzuki, if you call, please call me on my 1-800 number because I think we can get you 131 large.
Hey, Pat, serious question here. We know, as an insurance specialist, we know how poor the Affordable Act was for small businesses and budding entrepreneurs. How much worse would it be if Elizabeth Warren became president of the United States and instituted her health care plan?
You probably would see a lot more people unemployed because her tax bill against business owners, payroll tax, will destroy a small business owner. My
exactly.
business is up 70% since the president got elected and selling health care to small groups.
Going back to what I was...
I can tell you, based on that number alone, and I'm writing more group now than I have in 5 years. In the 8 years under Obama's administration, the rates went up 400%. The plans didn't work as well as they had promised. And I can tell you, if they could fix the health care problem, if these people in Washington on both sides would sit down and try to fix the health care problem and lower rates 30 or 40%, which, by the way, the average family is now at $20,000. If you can knock off 30%, you'd save $6,000 per family. You want to stimulate the economy? That's the greatest way to do it. That's $500 a month in somebody's pocket to use for a new car or towards their mortgage.
So
unfortunately, these politicians don't listen.
Go ahead, Mike.
So 2 points. I mean, first of all, Barack Obama is 10 times the man that Donald Trump has ever been at any point in time in his life, period. Okay? You may disagree with his policies, but Barack Obama is a solid citizen. He served for 8 years as president of the United States. He did not embarrass the United States. There were no scandals, no convictions, no charges, nothing. I mean, he served this country well. He deserves our respect, in my view. I think he's a solid man, a good man,
I agree,
and a good husband. That's number one. Number two, I will support the Democratic nominee to the best of my abilities in any way I can against Donald Trump in 2020 because I think that he is a threat to the future of the Republic, and I think that if he's reelected for 4 more years, I don't know that we'll ever recover, especially the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will go 7-2. It's going to change life in America for the better part of 50 or 75 years. Number 3, I'm a pragmatic guy. This is what I look at. Who has the best shot of beating Donald Trump? That's frankly all I care about at this point. And when I look at the field, the answer is crystal clear, and that is Joe Biden. And that's coming from a guy that's taken over 25 trips to the key 6 states in this country as to what it's going to take to win. When I started thinking about running last year, the very first trip I took was to Youngstown, Ohio, and there was a reason for that because that was ground zero for what happened in the 2016 election and how Donald Trump was able to tap into the belief by many working-class people that they'd been left behind, and that's what really propelled him in a big way to win the presidency. And I said at that time, look, I got to figure out if I could win in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Because if I couldn't win in those states, then I don't have any business running. And the bottom line is I don't believe that Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders could beat Donald Trump in those states.
I agree with that, but I also agree with Pat, with Pete Buttigieg. I think he would have a very solid chance. I think Kamala Harris would have a chance. I know that you're a Joe Biden supporter.
Look.
Here,
I'm gonna ask the question, okay, relating to Mayor Pete. Let's just have an honest discussion about it. Would those key states vote for a gay man to be president of the United States? Look, in my America,
probably
yes.
not.
No, in my America, yes.
America, yeah.
I want to believe I live in a country where the answer is, of course they would. Absolutely. Any suggestion otherwise is absurd. Okay. Mm-hmm. Do we live in that America? I don't know if we lived in that America, and that's a concern of mine. Okay, so before people go off and make a bunch of accusations about what I just said, I want to be really clear. I'm not talking about what I want. I'm not talking about whether this is, could happen if it was Michael Avenatti's America. It's not Michael Avenatti's America.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of ignorant bigots in this country that will not vote for somebody, not because they don't like their policy or for whatever reason, but because someone is a homosexual,
But
and that
see,
is
it's
sad.
but there's a second component to this that a lot of people don't understand, okay? I think that Mayor Pete would have a better shot of being elected in many of these key states if he was running against a candidate other than Donald Trump. The problem with Donald Trump is, okay, he has no boundaries. He will say and do whatever it takes to win. And look, a lot of people like that about him. But this is a guy that will feed on the fact that Mayor Pete is gay. He would feed on the fact that a woman was running against him. He would feed on the fact if a nominee was a minority running against him. He will exploit that issue to the fullest degree and use it to fuel his base. So I ask myself this quite a bit because I'm a big fan of Mayor Pete, a big fan. He's the smartest guy in the race, and I've spent some time with him. I'm very impressed by the guy, and I think someday he's going to make an exceptional president of the United States.
See, I kind of push back on that. I don't think that. Do you actually think that he would attack him for being a homosexual? Donald Trump would
directly,
and so
that was my question.
Or if he did it, he would have to become overly religious, right?
Look, would he do it directly? No, not necessarily.
Fire up that side of his base, but his history is so the opposite of being overly religious. I don't think it would play well with him. I think it would actually play against him.
I don't know that he would do it directly, but he would certainly do it in an underhanded way.
You don't have to call somebody a gay slur in order to go after somebody because they are homosexual.
Right.
Yes, the answer is yes. I don't think he would do it directly, but I think he would do it.
He would try to ignite the Mike Pence's wife type of religious element of his base.
I also don't like the. I know that people are going to get upset with me for saying this, but I'm going to call it like it is. I also don't like, frankly, the optics of Mayor Pete up against Donald Trump on a debate stage. There's a significant size difference, and I think that as ridiculous as that sounds, those optics matter.
You're right, and I'm not necessarily saying that I believe Mayor Pete would defeat Donald Trump, and I'm not even saying give him the best chance.
In my America, he would, but
yeah, but I mean, I agree with you. I respect Mayor Pete a lot.
It would be very difficult for Donald Trump to attack him and become this pious individual, considering how checkered his past has been.
I want to get Pat. We're up against a hard break here, but I want to give you a chance to interject here quickly before we.
Pat,
have to go to
what do
break.
you think of Mayor Pete?
Yeah,
I honestly think if Mayor Pete gets on the stage and he holds himself up the way he did in the last debate, if Trump were to attack him based on his sexual preference, that would kill him. I think Trump would get defeated. I think Trump will have to go against Mayor Pete in a situation about business of the United States of America and talk about politics. I think if he went up against Kamala Harris, he would destroy her. I don't think Kamala Harris has a leg to stand on. She has too much baggage. Biden would be an interesting debate opponent because Biden, if he's on, could be very, very strong on stage. I think Mayor Pete gives the Democrats a very, very strong force. Whether he's gay or not is irrelevant. I think he could be a very, very
his lack of support among the African American community would be a significant issue, unfortunately, in the general election because for some reason he's gotten no traction among the African American community. He's like pulling at 0 or 1%, which frankly I'm very surprised at.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know why that is, but he has not been able to gather any support in the African American community.
Pat, thank you so much for taking some time to join us, man. Really do appreciate it. Good friend of the show.
And I apologize I couldn't get in here in person. Michael,
no, that's all right.
Michael, enrollment's killing me.
As Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, Michael will be back. He'll be back. So, Pat, I appreciate you taking some time. Thank you so much. Michael, I always appreciate it when you come in studio, well, always when you come on our show. I know you're a very busy guy. I appreciate you coming in just to do the show with us. I know you got a lot of things going on these days, but my understanding is you will be back in a few weeks.
I'm going to be back. We're going to put a mic on campaign and get to it.
I can't wait for that. We'll get to that.
That could go sideways.
We'll get to that in a few weeks. Michael, thank you so much for being here, man. Always appreciate your time.
Right.
Great friend of the show.
Good to see you
All right,
guys.
we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to run down what happened at the Thomas & Mack Center, UNLV basketball. We'll get to that. And Lions legend Herman Moore will be coming up in the next hour as well. Take a quick break. Be back right after this.
So there's this guy named Jordan, and he's a healthy guy. He's a dad of 6, and he works as a guide in Alaska. But then he goes to the doctor, and he's diagnosed with cancer, stage 4. And here's the thing. He had switched from medical insurance to MediShare which is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry. So the question for Jordan and his wife Jenny was, is this really going to work?
Our medical bills exceeded $160,000. Medishare members shared all our bills.
And it was about more than just the money, too. This is a real community.
Medishare is a family, a group of people that stick with you through the hardest times of your life. I just don't know how I could have done it without Medishare.
It's so worth looking into. There's a reason this is growing so fast. If you want to find out more, here's a number for you. 844-91-BIBLE. That's 844-91-BIBLE. 844-91-BIBLE.
Hey guys, hear what the kids are saying about Infinity, the Math Institute.
Going to Infinity is a lot different than school because the faculty and staff in Infinity are a lot more one-to-one on you. They don't just care about getting the work done. They're about trying to change your life.
So before I went to Infinity, I had an F. I now have a B+, so it really helped me a lot with math. I like going to school now because it's easier for me. It's like not a struggle.
Infinity is a place where you learn new techniques, not only for math, but for life as well. It's also a great place to meet new people and make a lot of different friends who share the same qualities as you, and you just get a whole new experience.
It's different because if they have like questions or problems, you can talk to someone if you need that help.
Call Infinity, the Math Institute at 702-768-1777. That's 768-1777. Infinity, the Math Institute. Don't get more math problems, get solutions.
Looking for that perfect new piece of furniture for your home? A New Concept Furniture is the place to start and end your search. They'll beat any price on the internet, and they're here locally, so you can feel what you're buying first. Go to A New Concept Furniture today at 4255 South Grand Canyon to see for yourself the slick, modern, shiny store that mirrors our shiny city. A New Concept. Check out their showroom or call them at 702-570-2240. That's 702-570-2240.
I'm Tony Elliott with the Nevada Department of Transportation. If you're looking for up-to-date road and construction information, be sure to visit our website, nevadadot.com.
Kilmeade, Hannity, Levin. 1015 FM, 720 AM, KDWN, Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Whistleblower named. Hearings go open. I'm Mike Moss. Though President Trump has called for the name of the whistleblower who complained about him to be made public, he has not revealed it. Today, his son, Don Jr., may have. The younger Trump tweeted a link to a story that used the name. He also included the name in his tweet. South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham continues to call the impeachment inquiry a sham, but he admits the administration policy on Ukraine is troubling.
What I can tell you about the Trump policy toward the Ukraine, it was incoherent. It depends on who you talk to. They seem to be incapable of forming a quid pro quo. So, no, I find the whole process to be a sham, and I'm not going to legitimize it.
Correspondent Linda Kenyon reports the inquiry is about to begin open hearings.
House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff says he believes the public hearings will demonstrate that the President of the United States did pressure the Ukrainian leader to open an investigation into former Vice President Joe Biden, essentially urging a foreign country to interfere in the U.S. elections.
The most important facts are largely not contested.
Republican Mark Meadows is contesting Democratic assertions of a quid pro quo.
It's actually getting easier to defend the president.
2 U.S. diplomats will testify next Wednesday, a third on Friday. Linda Kenyon, Capitol Hill.
Less than 5,000 votes separate Democrat Andy Beshear ahead of incumbent Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin. Beshear says he is working on his transition, but Bevin has yet to concede the race. Dutch military police are investigating a suspect situation aboard a plane at Amsterdam's busy Schiphol Airport. Reports indicate a number of first responders, including ambulances and firefighters, have been summoned to the Schiphol Airport. On Wall Street, stocks are mixed at this hour. The Dow has turned positive, now up 7. The Nasdaq down 24. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, slowing for a crash I-15 northbound at Spring Mountain Road at the off-ramp, and an accident I-15 southbound at Charleston. On the surface streets, an injury crash, Rainbow, south of Warm Springs, in a hit-and-run accident. Investigation continues on Buffalo. just north of the 215. Millions of Americans finance the home of their dreams with their help. They can help you too. Rocket Mortgage. Push button, get mortgage. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
For more than a year, the whole of Vermont was captivated by the hunt for a runaway golden retriever. Read Catching Murphy, the latest book from the Associated Press. Available now exclusively at Amazon.com.
Sunday nights, it's Steve Sanchez.
Wake the heck up.
Live from the undisclosed bunker studios with a Constitution in one hand and a Bible in the other. Sundays from 7 to 10 p.m. on News Talk 720 KDWN.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. The world is changing. Isn't it time smoking changed too? Vuse Alto is a vapor product offering you a satisfying alternative to cigarettes. Simple to use, surprisingly quiet, and impressively powerful. Our best vapor yet at our best price ever, 99 cents, plus tax at participating retailers. 99-cent offer applies to Alto device. Pods sold separately. Underage sale prohibited.
If you need to sell your house,
talk to Aaron Taylor.
You want to sell it fast and get the most cash, talk to Aaron Taylor,
the real estate guy.
Do you have an ugly or distressed property? Or maybe you just don't want people trampling through your home? I will buy your house, giving you cash in 5 days, a cash advance within 24 hours, and always giving clients top dollar. And for you traditional sellers, I know exactly what you want. You want the most money possible for your house. You want a real estate agent that answers their phone. And you want honesty and communication along the entire process. Folks, my name is Aaron Taylor, the real estate guy. We have helped thousands of people just like you for over 24 years. I am grateful and committed to being the #1 real estate professional in the state of Nevada. Go to therealestateguyLV.com and see our amazing reviews. 702-310-6683. That's 702-310-MOVE. 702-310-6683. Powered by eXp Realty. Call for details.
Talk to Aaron Taylor,
the real estate guy.
Hi, this is Sabrina Chapman inviting you to join me every Sunday from noon to 12:30 p.m. for my new show, Mommy's Meetings and Mimosas. We'll be interviewing the leading Las Vegas ladies that are handling business and motherhood like a boss. Only on 101.5 FM, 720 KDON.
Las Vegas's only FM news talk station is right here. The new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. Always fun when Michael Avenatti joins us in studio. And JD, you alluded to this in the last segment. Why don't you tell people the special guest we have tomorrow if you are a political junkie? Interesting guy with an interesting past.
We have Republican presidential candidate Mark Sanford on tomorrow.
I wonder if he's in the Appalachians taking a hike.
He could be.
I don't know.
It's
Well,
very
listen,
possible.
we appreciate the fact he's going to be.
Sometimes you just have to disappear for a week to South America.
Yes, well, we'll interesting guy. So I'm actually looking forward to speaking with him tomorrow. He'll be joining us on the show, and we appreciate all the guests that have come on thus far. And, it takes some guts to get in the ring with Michael, and Danny Tarkanian and Pat Casale did a good job, and we appreciate them for doing that and for Michael taking the time to come in studio. He's got to catch a flight. He had to skate. We'll get to UNLV hoops here in just a second, but before I get to UNLV basketball, interesting story. If you are a Vegas Golden Knights fan, you probably don't like the San Jose Sharks very much. We recall what happened in the playoffs last year, the sham, and this is a true rivalry. There's no question about that. And one of the guys on this San Jose Sharks team that is not liked by Reeves and many of the Golden Knights players is Evander Kane. So if you are not an Evander Kane fan, you might like this story, a story that just came out. We are learning that the NHL's Evander Kane with the San Jose Sharks now owes upwards of $500,000 in gambling casino markers. The Cosmpolitan of Las Vegas has filed a lawsuit this week in the Clark County District Court alleging that Kane has failed to pay them $500,000 in markers. This is a guy, this extended him back in April, by the way. So I guess the court documents are stating that this guy took 8 credits of varying amounts between $20,000 and $100,000 on or about April 15th. That date would have fallen between Games 3 and Games 4 of the Stanley Cup first-round playoff series. The Cosmos also seeks a repayment of legal fees associated with the lawsuit. Kane has signed a 7-year deal with the Sharks in 2018 worth $49 million. So you think he would take care of this. Now, $500,000 is a lot of money. First of all, the fact that this guy hasn't even paid these markers is ridiculous. Just, Evander, this is embarrassing. Now everybody knows that you have a gambling problem and you are a horrible gambler. If you just paid off your markers, this story would have never gotten out there and the Cosmo wouldn't have even been allowed to talk about it. But now that you haven't paid your markers, and it is amazing to me that during the NHL playoffs, and make no mistake about it, Evander Kane is an unbelievable player. He's an all-star. He's a fantastic player. Say what you want about the guy. He's a great player, great hockey player. The fact that he is playing whatever he's playing, craps, blackjack, you name it. I mean, imagine it was table games. He's getting markers, right? It's not slot machines. The fact that you are going on a gambling binge and losing $500,000 during the first round of the NHL playoffs to me is ridiculous.
Right, and you're winning. And you beat the Knights.
Yeah.
What's that say about the Knights?
Well, I think it says a little bit about him, though.
Evander, if you're gonna gamble $500,000, give me $250,000. We'll bet some baseball. I'll turn it into about 1.4 in maybe 2 or 3 months, and I mean that I'm one of the best baseball bettors in the country, Evander. Don't do the table games. Don't do the low advantage games. Bet some sports, just not hockey. We'll make that work.
We need to get Reeves on the line here and ask him what he thinks about this, because you remember Reeves and Kane have had this ongoing feud for a while now, and they got into this big brawl if you recall, during Game 3 of the 2019 playoffs. And this was around the exact same time that these markers were being put out to Evander Kane. This is a very serious thing. If you remember, it wasn't that long ago, Charles Barkley owed a lot of markers. This is one of those things where this isn't a credit card we're talking about here, okay? This isn't, a landlord situation or, owing a friend a debt. You don't want to F with the casinos, okay? Because if you F with the casinos, they're going to F you back, okay? This is a very serious situation. If you owe markers to a casino, you're going to get your ass thrown in jail.
And a double F, not just a single. You
exactly.
They'll double F you on the other side. But, on the bright side of things for Evander Kane, he does make $7 million a year.
He makes a lot of money.
So he should be able to pay this debt, and that's why he got the markers.
So $7 million a year, when you take away the taxes, what is he clearing, you think? 4.5?
Probably 4.3 or 4.4 in California.
So this is still 15, maybe 20% of his
overall
overall yearly salary.
But he's been in the league. He signed a $49 million contract with a signing bonus, so he's probably got a net worth in the $30 to $40 million range. I mean, it's still 2 or 3% of his net worth. It's a bit over the top.
Let me ask you this:
to be doing something like a high risk situation, like a table game.
If you lose 15 to 20%, I mean, obviously, I'm guilty of this. If you lose 15 to 20% of your yearly salary, okay, you might have a gambling problem. You might. I think he's not very intelligent. Let's just start at that. He's not very smart.
I would say that's the definition of being a degenerate gambler. Because
how
again,
dumb are you?
You're playing a low advantage game like that. You just want the thrill.
Yeah.
It's all about the rush for you. It's all about the adrenaline, either making or losing the money.
How dumb are you, though?
Evander, be smart. Bet some sports. Just not hockey.
No, but even if he just was willing to have a good time and he didn't care and he wanted to throw away $500,000, the fact that he didn't pay it off shows you his stupidity.
Right.
How dumb is Evander Kane as a human being?
He could have been trying to impress a couple of girls.
And that's fine. That's his prerogative.
He could have been, trying to make himself look like he has more money than he does, even though he has a lot.
But, JD, that's fine. That's his prerogative. I mean, I wouldn't personally spend that kind of money, but, he's got a lot of money. But that's his prerogative. That's not where my issue is here. My issue is pay your debt. What are you doing? You have $500,000 in markers. Why are you waiting until they make this a publicity thing now? Or I shouldn't say publicity, it's bad PR, but why would you now wait until they make it a story and now we all know you're a moron? Pay your markers. I don't understand it. Charles Barkley is another guy. Barkley admits that he is a degenerate gambler. Okay, he goes to Vegas all the time. He blows a lot of money. But Barkley did the exact same thing. He didn't pay off the markers, and they went after him. This is a very serious thing, and people have gone to jail over this sort of stuff. Luckily, guys like Charles Barkley and Evander Kane, they have a lot of money, so they're going to be able to pay this stuff off. But if you owe like a $10,000 marker and you don't pay it off, you can go to jail.
Well, get this. The markers he got were 80, 100, 80, 40, 20, 10, 100. I mean, he just kept getting more and more. I mean, it's kind of like Joe Pesci in Casino,
One of my favorite scenes in any movie, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. I love that scene.
And then he takes the phone and hits Don Rickles with it.
Yeah.
That was tough.
That was one of my favorite
So
scenes.
who do you think has the worst gambling problem between Evander Kane, Charles Barkley, and John Daly.
John Daly, because John Daly has admitted that he's lost over $55 million.
But he always paid his debts.
John Daly, but you didn't ask me that. You said who has the bigger gambling problem. That has nothing to do with paying off your debts and everything to do with how much money have you lost. John Daly is now selling T-shirts and John Daly memorabilia in his, what would you call, one of those mobile homes. He goes from some of these tournaments and he's selling. He used to spend $5,000 a pull. There were slot machines. They used to have those in Vegas. $5,000 a pull slot machines. So, no question, John Daly. He said it in his book. He's lost over $50 million in his lifetime betting, and he also let that affect his golf because he would go to these events, not just in Vegas, but I remember one time. This is a true story. I'm going to give you a quick John Daly story here real quick, a degenerate John Daly story. I was living in Connecticut at the time.
I love these.
This is the time when John Daly was on the PGA Tour, and he was making cuts. He was doing all right. But he was at the ladder of his PGA Tour career. This was in a tournament in Connecticut. I believe at the time it was called the Greater Hartford Open. I'm about a mile down the road. I'm headed to the event, okay? And I stop at a gas station with my dad. I think I was 18 years old, 19 years old. Me and my dad were heading out to the event. I think it was a Thursday, and it was around 1 p.m. John Daly had teed off at around 8 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. We stop at this gas station, and all of a sudden I see John Daly in the gas station scratching off these scratch-off tickets. He's just sitting there, and I'm not exaggerating. I'll always remember this. There must have been, I'm not exaggerating, 200 or 300 tickets just lying there. He's just sitting there scratching off tickets, smoking a cigarette. And I looked at him, I said, hey, he wanted nothing to do with us because he was in his gambling mode, scratching off tickets. So I asked the cashier, because I had gone back later that day because we wanted to know exactly how much money he spent. The cashier said he spent over $2,000 on scratch-off tickets. Some of these are dollar scratch-off. Some of these are $5 scratch-off tickets. So I always remember that. Again, I was like 18, 19 years old. So I think with some of these professional athletes or former professional athletes, they have that competitive fire in their belly, and it gives them a release. We know John Daly has had a lot of issues with alcohol, drinking, eating habits.
Prostitution.
He's had a lot of issues in his life.
Basically, every single vice that Vegas offers you, or offers the average tourist or resident, John Daly has lived that for the better part of 20 years.
But going back to Evander Kane, if the guy's willing to spend $500,000 and lose it in a few days in Vegas and then not pay the markers, it leads me to believe that he probably most likely lives a reckless life. And this isn't the only reckless behavior, certainly. But anyway, we wish Evander Kane luck. We really do, Evander. But guess what? If you don't pay your markers, you belong in jail. You ain't going to be on the San Jose Sharks much longer.
And not only that, man, hey, you have the money. You're getting paid $7 million a year.
Absurd.
You made a stupid decision. Live with it. Pay your debts. Otherwise, you're going down.
Evander, pay your debts, my friend. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what took place at the Thomas and Mack Center last night. UNLV hoops, my thoughts on that, and my opinions after watching the team play an actual regular season game, where I think this team could go this year, my thoughts on TJ Otzelberger. That and much more. We'll get to that coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
Hi, I'm Raymond Denon, Vice President of Optima Tax Relief. If you're in debt to the IRS, there's a lot you need to know. Starting with rule number 1, don't mess with the IRS. They can garnish your paycheck, levy your bank accounts, even take your home or business. That's all true. But it's also true that there's a way out. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative. It's one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, even tens of thousands. Nobody knows this program like us, the experts at Optima Tax Relief. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we've resolved over $500 million in tax debt for our clients. We'll stand between you and the IRS and fight to get you the best deal possible. Don't mess with the IRS. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima for a free consultation.
Call 800-592-9422. 800-592-9422. 800-592-9422.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
SportsX Radio Nation, what's up? It's Ken Thompson, host of SportsX Radio, reminding you to catch me at my new time, 8 to 10 p.m. for all the local Vegas sports coverage, plus the national scene as well. That's SportsX Radio on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
Hi, Doug Basham here. Join me Saturday afternoons from 2 to 4, and I'll tell you what your conservative, corporate-controlled, right-wing propaganda hate media isn't. You're welcome. That's Saturday afternoons, 2 to 4. Be there.
If your retirement plan is on set it and forget it, it's time to take control. Tune in Saturday at 4 p.m. for Financial Safari with America's Wealth Coach and best-selling author, Coach Pete D'Arruda. For more than 25 years, Coach Pete has been helping people just like you plan for retirement. Join Coach Pete every week as he discusses topics like why your retirement plan should also be an income plan and how to make sure you're getting the most out of your 401k. Financial Safari with Coach Pete, Saturday afternoons at 4 on KDWN 101.5 FM and 720 AM.
Millions retire online so they can do what they want offline. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And now a message from the traffic cone you ran over on Blue Diamond last week.
Okay, ow, that hurt. I know, you're in a hurry, but I could have been killed. Look, I have a wife and a baby cone on the way. I'm out there risking it all. And for what? I'll tell you, Southern Nevada's economic future. I'm helping the I-11 get built and the Centennial Bowl. So show a cone a little love.
Love the cone. For road construction details, visit seeingorangenv.com or call 702-928-CONE.
A Home for Spot is a nonprofit group of dog lovers whose mission is to rescue, provide sanctuary, and ultimately to rehome abandoned, stray, and neglected dogs. To donate, foster, or adopt, go online to ahome4spot.com.
720 on the AM, 1015 FM. Yeah, now on FM. The only FM news talk station in Las Vegas. KDON.
He's an idiot. Everybody knows it. Nobody doubts it.
The wisdom words of Joe Biden. He's an idiot. I'm going to take a guess he was talking about Donald Trump. Welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. So last night, we had the opportunity, myself and JD, to catch the season opener, UNLV Hoops. It was at the Thomas and Mack Center last night. Didn't play a very good team. Right, JD? It was not Purdue. It was another Purdue.
It was IPFW.
Yes.
Purdue Fort Wayne was the actual
Correct.
team.
So I will say this. Let's start with, we'll do positives and negatives. Let's start with the positive. First of all, TJ Otzelberger is actually a basketball coach. Marvin Menzies is not a basketball coach. That's just my opinion.
He's a salesman.
Right, exactly. TJ actually runs an offense, and I was impressed with the fact of how they share the basketball. Keep in mind, they played a terrible opponent. I give them credit, though, for taking care of business against a bad opponent. But what I like so far, the positives, first of all, is that I think this team is actually going to gel. I think the chemistry is going to get better. I think it is there. They have some guys that can shoot. Kid from Australia is very, very good. He's got a beautiful stroke. And I think they have a pretty good base there to compete in the Mountain West. I like TJ Otzelberger's offense. That's what he was known for at South Dakota State, a free-flowing offense, but taking good shots, moving the basketball. They had a lot of open looks yesterday. Part of that isn't due to the fact the team they were playing terrible defensively. But with that being said, this is a basketball coach that runs a fun offense to watch for the fans, and I think it's also fun for the players, but it's organized. You know, they move the ball. You rarely see anything one-on-one. You know, I remember last year it was like Amari Hari one-on-one. Everybody else tried to get out of the way. That's not how you run an offense.
Yeah. If it is one-on-one, it's not isolation. It's a fast break.
So you agree with me. It was nice to see that they have a free-flowing offense where they share the basketball.
A lot of good ball movement.
And he puts players in positions where they're going to succeed.
He does.
Right? So I appreciate that about him. And I know they work a lot defensively. And we had David Jenkins on the show, who's a transfer, who's going to be eligible next year. And he said, 80% of their practices, they're working on defensive intensity, defensive schemes, that sort of thing. And I believe him. And TJ mentioned that yesterday. But I still have my doubts. I don't know how good this team is defensively. That is one of my, and I think we're going to find out here in the next couple weeks because their schedule is not easy, even though they're really not playing a lot of top-level teams. But Kansas State is known as a top 50 team, so we'll see how that plays out this weekend. But again, some positives there besides the fact that TJ Otzelberger has gone out in the community. I think he's done a fantastic job. I actually think TJ is a pretty smart guy, too. He knows what he's doing. He runs a good offense. So those are the positives there. And those are a lot of positives, by the way. I haven't said a lot of positive things about UNLV basketball in a very long time.
That's not true, Brian.
Yes, it is. What positive have I said about UNLV before TJ Otzelberger? What have I said since you've done a show with me? Did I say anything positive about this UNLV team last year? What did I say? Name me one positive thing I said under Marvin Menzies.
I believe you said it was a positive that Marvin Menzies would not be the coach at UNLV next year.
That is true. That is kind of a negative to a positive.
It's like a masked. Okay. It's like a masked positive.
I'll give you that one.
But I'm going to still call it a positive because clearly after last night, it is a positive.
I'll give you that one. It is a positive. But then again, when you go from Marvin Menzies to anybody, it's most likely going to be a positive. But
at this point, I tend to agree.
Yeah. But with that being said, another one of my concerns is their point guard. Kid who transferred from Texas, who's only averaged a few points a game, a few assists a game. He is their starting point guard. And listen, I know that Amari Hardy is going to play a lot of the one. But this kid struggles offensively. In fact, what I saw from him yesterday alone, and I'm not just judging by one game, I watched some film on him. He is not the kind of guy that likes to shoot the basketball. And when you run this type of offense, your guard at times has to be able to score. And he's not a scorer, and I don't think he has a lot of confidence. He's not a very good shooter. Is he decent with the basketball? Yes, he's decent, but I think you're going to see a lot of teams that are going to be pressing full court against UNLV because I don't think they're great with the basketball. I don't think he's great with the basketball, and it puts a lot of pressure on Amari Hardy. I really look forward to next year when it's Amari Hardy and Jenkins in the backcourt because that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But this kid at the one is a concern, and my other concern is defensively. Jong, a guy like that, he has gotten a lot. He played a hell of a game yesterday, by the way. He was fantastic, right? He had a double-double. What did he have, 17 points and 17 rebounds? Wasn't it something like that?
Yeah, the 17, 16, and 5.
Yeah. So he had
16, 17, and 5.
Right. So he had a fantastic game, but I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen when he's playing a physical type player in the Mountain West Conference. I think they're going to have issues in the paint. Because I don't think they're as big as they need to be physically. I'm not talking about height. I'm just talking about physical. And what we know about the Mountain West Conference, it is a physical conference. So, yes, I have concerns defensively with this team and at their guard position. But what I will say again is that I like their offense. I think TJ specializes in that. And I think this is a positive. And I think the game yesterday was a positive. I like TJ Otzelberger. He's a likable guy. And listen, I go back and I'll say it again, and I hope I'm wrong on this one. I think there were better hires out there. I'm not afraid to say that. I always going to speak my mind on this show. Mike Miller is a name that comes to mind. I could think of other players other coaches that come to mind. However, that decision has already been made, and that's why I don't like talking about that now. That decision has been made, but when they hired Dave Rice, even in year one, even in the first few weeks of the season when they beat the number one team in the country, North Carolina, I said, you know what? That's fine. They have a lot of talent. I don't think Dave Rice knows what he's doing as a head coach. I don't think he's a good leader. I don't think this is going to work out. I was right. There was nobody else in this town that said that, especially after they beat the number one team in the country. Dave Rice is not a leader. He is a great assistant coach, not a good head coach. I said that wasn't going to work out. When they hired Marvin Menzies, I thought it was a joke. First of all, he was like the 6th or 7th guy on the list. If Mick Cronin was coaching this team, which we all thought he would have, that would have been a phenomenal hire. He's going to do a good job at UCLA because I think he's a very good coach. That would have been a good hire. Marvin Menzies was a bad hire. Dave Rice started the tumble downward, and Marvin Menzies made it worse. I do believe that the start of the upward spiral, I guess you could say, so to speak, for lack of a better term, starts with TJ Otzelberger. I think he's going to get this team out of the gutter. I think they're going to get better, and I actually do think he will succeed here at UNLV. I have not said that in a long time about Dave Rice or Marvin Menzies since the Lon Kruger days. And I think the fact that TJ Otzelberger has a great staff, including Kevin Kruger, Lon's son, who played here at UNLV, and I've heard a lot of good things about some of these other assistants. I think he has a really good staff. I think they have a good coaching staff put together. I think they have some decent players that can make them competitive this year. So, JD, that is my assessment of UNLV, not only of the game last night, but just as how I think this UNLV season is going to pan out. What do you say?
Well, Brian, that was about 7.5 minutes long.
About 3 minutes.
I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can do 20 minutes now. No, I'm totally kidding. I think that TJ Otzelberger is a smart guy. I don't think he's trying to create an impression that he is something that he isn't. I don't think he's going to make excuses for the team. Even after the game in the press conference, he said, and I quote, I understand that a lot of the fans, we have to earn their respect. We have to make them want to come to these games, and I think that you guys should jump on the bandwagon early, and I tend to agree. Now, Jonah Antonio, the 6'5" guard from Australia, who's probably got one of the best strokes in America, did say that he believes that the UNLV starting 5 can be put up against anybody in America. That's probably a bit over the top. But I thought Jong was a force inside, and I think he'll continue to be a force. Now, against Kansas State, he's going to play against a guy named McCall Maween, who's probably a top 2 or 3 big man in the Big 12, which is a much better conference than the Mountain West Conference. So he's going to have problems against him, but it's good to face a guy like that. I do think that there's not going to be too many big guys, except I think he'll match up well against Nemias Queta too of Utah State, but there's not going to be a lot of guys in the Mountain West that Jong's going to have a problem matching up with, and I don't see this team getting blown out by anybody. I think they're going to be in pretty much every single game. Yeah, Mitru Long's not a great guard offensively. His shot isn't consistent. He doesn't like to shoot, but he's fast. And one thing about Noah Robotham last year was slow. He was extremely slow. He wasn't quick.
He's better. This kid's better than Robotham.
He wasn't quick defensively. Mitru Long is quick defensively, and he can run the break with some speed. And that wasn't the case with the team last year. I think that Mitru Long is going to be a much better defender on the ball than anyone the UNLV's had in a couple of years.
I did not say that. I thought Robotham was a better player. No, I would never say that.
When did I say
kid's
that?
better than.
I never said that.
Well, let me just say for the record, I think this kid's better than the Robotham.
Well, yeah, of
He's
course.
better.
When did I? Yeah, you're just interrupting me for no reason right now.
No, I thought that's what you were inferring.
No,
okay.
I'm just saying compared to Robotham last year, who couldn't play any defense and who wasn't quick. This kid
he's terrible.
He's fast and he's quick, and I think he's gonna run the break really well and D up the one with consistency. The team they're going to score a lot of points. They don't have a lot of depth. My biggest issue with the team is they only go about 7 deep. Dembele played a little bit. When Jong comes out of the game, if Jong gets in foul trouble, this team could get blown out. But if Jong doesn't get in foul trouble and Dembele doesn't have to play a lot, they're going to be in every single game.
I don't think they're very deep.
No, they're not. They go 7 deep, probably at the max. But I think that they're going to win. And I said 18 and 13. That sounds about right. Maybe as high as 19 or 20. But again, the last year with Menzies, I mean, in 2 years, Menzies, or in 3 years, Menzies lost like 12 games by 17 or more points. I don't see this team losing by 10 or 15 points more than once a year for the next couple of years, and it's going to be against really good competition. Again, now that could happen if, say, Kansas State or a team with a big man gets Jong in foul trouble early. That could affect the squad. But again, Hardy can score, Antonio can score, Nick Blair can score a little bit, and Donnie Tillman is a plus athlete. They didn't have that last year, so I think this team is worth watching.
We're going to learn a lot more about this team in the next couple weeks, and Kansas State comes to town this weekend. Even though they lost a lot of players, it still will be a good test for UNLV, and we will continue to cover this team. We have a lot of fun doing it, and we hope that TJ Otzelberger succeeds. I really hope he does. And that's more than I could say for Marvin Menzies when he was here. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, man, this is going to be a lot of fun. He is a Detroit Lions legend. Former NFL player Herman Moore will be joining us next. Take a break. Be back after this.
A just-released transcript of the impeachment inquiry testimony of Ambassador Bill Taylor is troubling for the administration. Correspondent Manu Raju reads from it.
An excerpt here where he says that Ambassador Sondland explicitly connected investigations with an Oval Office meeting for President Zelensky.
Taylor tells the committee he clearly understood that military aid to Ukraine would be withheld until Ukraine agreed to investigate the Bidens. The president's son, Don Jr., has tweeted the name and a link to the alleged identity of a whistleblower who complained about the president's phone call in July with the Ukrainian President Zelensky. The law makes it illegal to disclose the name of a whistleblower. Police in Amsterdam are responding to an incident aboard a plane at the very busy Schiphol airport. Dutch media report a possible hijacking may be underway. On Wall Street, the Dow is down off about 10 points at this hour. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads in the Kaos Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, slowing for a crash I-15 northbound at Spring Mountain Road at the off-ramp, and an accident on 15 southbound at Charleston. On the surface streets, an injury crash, Rainbow, south of Warm Springs, and a hit-and-run accident investigation continues on Buffalo, just north of the 215. Millions of Americans finance the home of their dreams with their help. They can help you too. Rocket Mortgage. Push button, get mortgage. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Are you interested in owning rental properties right here in the Las Vegas area? Auction.com, the nation's leading real estate auctioneer, must sell 102 rental properties in the Las Vegas and Henderson markets. These are turnkey, income-producing single-family homes and condos with tenants and leases in place. That's right, the tenants are in place and currently paying rent on over 100 homes to be auctioned individually at auction.com/radio. Financing is is available and a broker co-op is being offered for this one-time unprecedented online auction to be held November 11th through 13th. Add more rentals to your portfolio, diversify your investments to add real estate, or buy your very first real estate investment. This is an auction that can't be missed. View all homes and auction details at auction.com/radio. That's www.auction.com/radio. Auction is subject to a reserve.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they're the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, which will bang its cymbals when the right resume appears. Okay, there is no monkey.
I said there is no monkey!
But skills tests, that's a for sure.
See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Visit Indeed.com/promo today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
This is what parents are saying about Infinity, the Math Institute.
She didn't like school. She really did not like to go to math class. She would be very upset. She wouldn't do her homework. With Infinity Math, she actually listened and wanted to succeed in math.
My kids were already good in math, but now they're excellent.
My husband and me, we are so happy because we see how she is interested in math and that she is always excited to go. We are so glad we made this choice to send her to Infinity.
I like Infinity because it has broadened my children's view on math because Mr. Brookhagen is an awesome teacher.
Math is everywhere. There's no reason why our kids should hate it. Infinity changed that for my kids, and imagine what they can do for you.
Call Infinity, the Math Institute, at 702-768-1777. That's 768-1777. Infinity, the Math Institute. Don't get more math problems, get solutions.
Hey,
Bench, what are you doing?
I'm rubbing my blue emu on.
Were you ready to go fishing?
Fishing?
You said we were going fishing this morning.
I have 10 Gold Glove awards.
Oh, here we go again.
Johnny Bench doesn't go fishing.
Yeah, I know.
Johnny Bench goes catching. Blue Emu supports healthy muscles and joints. Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. Available at nationwide retailers and Amazon.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. Presidential candidate Mr. Sanford will be joining us tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Also, check us out on YouTube. Our live stream up now, the Vegas Take YouTube page. Also, you can check out all of our segments as we post all of them on SoundCloud daily. And, of course, we post them. When is our website going to be ready, by the way? I was going to ask you.
We're actually going to have a final update on our website, a brand new revision, if you will, thevegastake.com. It sounds like it'll be next week. There's going to be a whole lot of developments that we will announce when it's done, but I'm not going to talk about them until then. But it's going to be a game changer for the Vegas Take as far as exposure on a national level. So we're pretty excited about the new website. We're also working on getting on iHeartRadio, Roku, Amazon Alexa. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of developments as far as getting our content just out there to everybody. But right now, YouTube, SoundCloud, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, the list goes on and on. But very soon, the Vegas Take will have a lot more exposure, not just in Vegas, but on a national level and an international level.
Sure, absolutely. So coming up here in just a few minutes, we'll be speaking to Detroit Lions legend himself, Herman Moore. He'll be coming up here in just a few minutes. I wanted to talk about this in regards to the Palms because, I was just at the Palms last week, Halloween night, saw Marilyn Manson, and I've always enjoyed the Palms. I think it's a fun casino to go to.
At the Pearl, right? Not Kaos?
No, not Kaos.
Yeah.
This was at the Pearl, but it was at the Palms. And as you know, Kaos is a nightclub at the Palms, and we just received word within the last few days that this nightclub is going to be closing down. That decision, $690 million renovation probably has something to do with it. The project was made after the company reported a net loss of close to $27 million in the third quarter. That's down almost $52 million from the same period last year. Make no mistake about it, the Palms is just losing a ton of money. Now, you might say to yourself,
I disagree with that.
No, it's a fact.
No,
I just said
I don't think the Palms is losing a ton of money, but I think that Kaos
No.
is causing the Palms to lose a lot.
A friend of mine that I was at a party with the other day that knows everybody at the Palms told me that the property itself, the Palms, is losing tons of money right now. They put a ton of money into the new pool renovations and the renovations about the casino. That casino is getting destroyed. Now, you might say to yourself, well, wait a second, how do they exist? Well, they're also joined up with a lot of these other casinos because they are part of the station casinos right now. And a lot of these station casinos are doing quite well, actually. The Palms is taking a hit. They are not making money. They are losing money. That is 100%. So the Kaos is probably not the only place that's going to be closing down there eventually. But you know what? Here's the problem. When you pay some of these acts or some of these DJs millions and millions of dollars, that stuff adds up, and they're not getting the crowds that they need to be getting there. They're just not.
It's not so much the crowds. It's the fact that the crowds don't have a lot of discretionary income. They spend the money on the ticket. They get high. They do drugs. They don't buy liquor, and they don't gamble. And so the crowds are consistent, but the problem is you're paying the DJs, like Marshmello, for example, G-Eazy, Cardi B. They probably have a $50, $60 million entertainment budget over the course of 2 years, but then they're getting the people to attend the concert, but they're not getting the ancillary revenue, and also you're getting the fights, and you're getting the negative stuff with the millennial crowd that doesn't have a lot of extra money.
We will continue to revisit this story because I do have some strong opinions on that. But when we have an NFL legend on the line, I don't like to keep him waiting, and no exception for this gentleman. He is a Detroit Lions legend and had a great career in the NFL. And we're glad that he joins us right now. The legend himself, Herman Moore. Herman, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hi, Herman.
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
So, Herman, so many questions to get to in such a short period of time. But I guess I want to start with just basic questions in regards to the NFL. What are some of the teams besides the Detroit Lions, the teams that you enjoy watching, and what do you make of the New England Patriots, their dynasty, and the fact that Tom Brady's able to do what he still does at his age?
Well, New England's always a team that I think surprises and at the same time marvels some fans and people who are looking from the outside in, that they're able to be as competitive every year and to play at such a high level, despite the fact that just as any other team, their roster continues to rotate and change. But they find a way to plug guys in, and I think that's what they're known mainly for, is that you can go there, they find a place and a position for you on a role, and then they extract the most out of you. And when you have an organization and you have a machine that can do that on a consistent basis, you produce championships and you win. And you don't worry about the what ifs and what happens to certain players. So kudos to them for that. The other teams I love looking at, enjoy watching the Texans and see what they've been able to do. And it was about defense at one point, and then it's about offense, and then it's about just how do you get both units to operate and play at high levels at the same time and find and uncover playmakers. San Francisco at 8-0 right now. I mean, who would have thought that?
Right.
So they are must-see TV. Whether or not you know all the names of the players on that team or not, you're just waiting to see what happens next. So there are some storylines, and there are some good ones and some bad ones for the NFL right now. But for the most part, it's continued to be one of the most beloved games in the nation.
I totally agree with you about the Patriots. They just exploit every single weakness they can do, and Belichick's the best at that. So you played at about 6'4", 215. You're one of the biggest wide receivers in the league when you played. Who now compares favorably to you in the NFL?
I would say size-wise, believe it or not, a guy like Kenny Golladay is very similar to what I started at. When you mentioned my height and weight, he's at I think he's 6'4", 215. My optimal weight when I was hitting my Pro Bowl status, I was at about 223 because I was taking on linebackers and safeties like John Lynch on a regular basis. So I had to beef up a little bit. But then I look at Mike Evans, who I've talked about in previous interviews as being one of those players that you don't talk about as much. But if you go back and look at the consistency that he's had over his young career, over 1,000 yards each year, and he just continues to get better and better. And yet you don't hear a ton about him out of Tampa Bay. But he's one of those players I would say I'm more comparable to than most.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Detroit Lions legend Herman Moore. Okay, Herman, so I want to ask you a little bit. You're over 9,000 yards in your career, which is incredible. I wanted to ask you, back when you played, there wasn't the type of concussion protocol that there is now. So I guess I have a two-part question for you. How many concussions do you think you suffered in your playing days, number one? And number two, on the other side of things, what do you think about these new roughing the passer penalties and protecting the quarterback the way they are? Do you think it's ruining the game?
It's making the game safer. Is it ruining it from the perspective of the fan that wants to see the aggressive play and style that football is known to be? Yep, it's taking something out of it because there's a complaint. And it's interesting because each team has an offense. Each team has a quarterback.
Right.
So it's not that it's a favoritism or or anything like that for either side or the other. They both play by the same rules. But what I do think is that they have to be careful because there are inherent risks that are part of the game. When I played, I think I had 6 or 7.
Wow.
When I went back and they finally sent me my charts and I saw it, never realized that, and that's probably the reason why I didn't realize I had that many. But when you have such an aggressive sport, you try and figure out where does safety play into making sure that the rules match that and are favorable to making sure you protect the player first without destroying the integrity of the game. And right now it's not mashing up properly. So it's weighted a lot towards preventative side of things versus it is, solutions to maybe there's a different way they can go about it.
You're the commissioner of the NFL. What would you do? What would be your advice to the commissioner and how they deal with this?
At the rate what they're doing with kickoffs, I would just, get rid of that and just put it on a 25-yard line.
Yeah.
Because you're making a decision whether to kick in the end zone or not. If you really think it's that insignificant, and now the regularity of return kicks is just not – you're just kind of waiting for the guy to kick it, and then you're expecting it to be on the 25-yard line. The other one is I would go back and make sure when the quarterback is escaping the pocket, he's got to get down sooner. I see too often where the guy's sliding 2 seconds or a second right before the guy's ready to hit him, and all of a sudden, how do you pull up as a defensive player? And some of these quarterbacks the size of a guy like Cam Newton or some, they're 230, 240-pound guys running at you, and you're 5'10" or a 6-foot defensive back. What do you do? Other than try and defend yourself or lower a boom on them. So there's some things that aren't quite thought through. I think they're more knee-jerk. There's ways to still look at protecting this. So if I'm the commissioner, I'm going to definitely go back and evaluate that, and then I'm also going to evaluate that pass interference deal they got going on right now.
Yeah,
I don't think that's working.
No, I think they've had 5 of 57 actually overturned, which is just crazy to me. So you had you had a 10-year career. You retired in 2002. You've been out of the league for about 16 years. Have you noticed any adverse effects on your body over that period of time that you think could be from playing football? Oh,
definitely, especially on the cognitive side. There's all kind of things that happen with players, and even like players like myself. You have a tendency to think you're okay and you think things are fine, but you have to be on top of it, and you have to pay attention to giving yourself a baseline and understanding exactly where you are so that you can measure that. You have a lot of guys also suffer from sleep, and they're not getting enough rest. You also have anxiety. You got guys that are suffering with depression and all kind of other mental issues. So, and that's just before you get to the physical side of it. So for me, it's been mainly just joints and my feet, my hands, because I've had dislocations and separated shoulders and all that stuff. So it catches up with you at some point.
You're clearly a competitor. One year you broke the NFL record for receptions in a season with 123. You almost had 1,700 yards and 14 touchdowns that year. What do you do to replace the competitive spirit that the NFL offered you, and since you've been retired?
Oh, just basically being a part of community initiatives and working with companies and organizations like Quick Lane on some of their initiatives keeps me very busy. I try and find things that are meaningful, and then also I have a couple businesses that I run that I've grown from ground up, very proud of those and the expansion that we've done over the years to make that a successful venture as well.
And I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the Quick Lane Bowl and some of the good things they're doing there. One last question, and I want it to be a Las Vegas question. I guess it's a two-part question. What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard that the Raiders were going to be moving to Las Vegas? Do you think it would be successful? And I want you to go back into your early 20s when you were a young professional football player. How would you have handled Las Vegas?
Taking less money to go there. That would be the easiest contract to negotiate if they say, hey, you can stay either place X or you can come to Vegas, but you're going to have to take a little bit of a haircut. I have no hair right now, so it wouldn't have been too big of a deal. That would have been easy, but I think that's it's going to be a phenomenal franchise. And it's going to go big, and it's going to become probably, in my opinion, the most valuable franchise, even if it doesn't win a championship.
Wow.
By just having it where it's located. Because just given the nature of where it is, it's built for entertainment, and
right.
That's what the NFL is. It's all it's about.
And I think that it's going to – I think free agents are going to flock to Las Vegas, especially because of the lack of state income tax as well.
I agree. So wow, that's incredible. So, Herman, you would know more than most. So you're telling me that you believe – that the Raiders will be worth probably the most amount of money of all the franchises in the NFL. You believe that?
Yep, because I think championships are one thing. I think that is for more of the being able to have the bragging rights and to say, hey, we're a championship team. But then you look at the value of a team like Dallas. They're competitive, but last time they had a Super Bowl. I mean, it's been a minute.
Right.
There's other franchises that have done more, but I would argue that they're probably the most valuable, or if not one of the most valuable in the NFL. But as soon as Vegas goes there, it's all about what's the dollar amount, what's the value of owning something that can generate you capital and sponsorship and money and events beyond just what you get on the field, and then what's going to lure in those players. I mean, that's the nature of it. It is a entertainment piece. It's like real estate. It's more attractive than the others. You can have all the shiny bells and whistles, but
right.
If you're in New York versus a rural area, your property's probably going to be worth more. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right.
Located.
You're right, and I think a perfect example of that is the Vegas Golden Knights, the NHL franchise, worth a lot of money right now.
A lot of money.
Herman, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center. We've got obviously they're the title sponsor of the 6th annual Quick Lane Ball. They're giving out scholarships. They're doing a lot of good things, and you're a part of that. So, Herman, talk to me a little bit about the good things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center is doing a lot of great things with the Trading One Uniform for Another program, where they're offering $10,000 scholarships to military men and women, our veterans, but also this year and also last year opened it up for our first responders. And they can nominate themselves, or they can nominate someone. If you know of someone, you know of a veteran, or if you know of someone who is a first responder, I would encourage them to go to quicklane.com/scholarships and nominate that person, that individual, for one of these $10,000 scholarships towards their automotive maintenance and repair certification. They will have until, like I said, December 6th to do that. And then we're going to announce the winners on December 26th at the Quick Lane Bowl, which features the Big Ten versus the ACC. This is a great thing. I've had the opportunity to speak on it. And for those of us who understand some of the challenges in the transition that has to be made with our men and women who have served this country, and also those that continue to do so as first responders, They're very special people. They're those that we should raise up and celebrate, but also do what we see being done with Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center, and that is giving them an opportunity to continue to have successful careers and lives.
All right. Well, Herman, I appreciate you really taking some time to join us and answering all of our questions. And we hope one day, maybe if you come out to Las Vegas, we'd love to have you in studio and have you in here as a guest. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us, Herman. We really do appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I'll take you up on that, and also that hotel room.
I appreciate it. We will absolutely hook you up with a hotel room.
We will make it all happen. Thanks a lot, Herman.
Right. Herman, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. All right, there you go. The Detroit Lions legend himself, Herman Moore. This is a guy who took a lot of hits. He has over 9,000 yards in his career, but he is loved there in Detroit. Extremely intelligent guy, and I appreciate his honesty and candidness. That's very interesting. And I don't necessarily disagree with him, but I don't think we've ever had anybody just flat out say that. A former player that said that the Raiders will be the NFL franchise, will be worth more than any other franchise when they move to Vegas. I'll tell you something. He's making me believe it. I don't necessarily disagree with him. NHL's a really different animal. I would say if the Vegas Golden Knights did not do what they did in year one and make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, I'm not saying it wouldn't be a successful franchise. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a profitable franchise, but there's no chance it would be where they're at now. Let's be honest. The Vegas Golden Knights are a good football team. It will obviously help if the Raiders make the playoffs and they're a good team in year one. I just don't know if that's going to happen.
The Raiders are going to need a transcendent superstar to join their team. Like if Josh Jacobs in year two goes for 2,200 yards and 20 TDs and breaks the NFL rushing record, and they go to the Super Bowl, like that, something like that, I think would have to take place for that to happen. Just because you require jersey sales and a ton of national exposure. They're going to get exposure regardless. And away teams are going to come here. They're going to pay through the nose to just to see the stadium because it's amazing. Mm-hmm. But I think to be where Herman thinks it can go, you're going to need a consistent winning team and an absolute superstar that the NFL puts all over TV and puts in commercials, kind of like a Baker Mayfield, but with ability.
Mm-hmm. 6 or 7 concussions.
That's all.
I mean, I remember Eric Lindros. You remember Eric Lindros, a legend, NHL legend who had some great years with the Philadelphia Flyers. They said he had 3 or 4 concussions. He probably had more than that, but it ended his career, and he struggles with pain and suffering. He's talked about it in some interviews every single day, and there's many other examples of that. We're glad that Herman is doing okay, but, I mean, he suffers every day. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, not only will we preview some special guests that are going to be on tomorrow's show, but I also want to ask the question, why is it that some of these nightclubs are closing down and there's like no in between? Why is it that one nightclub, in this case Kaos nightclub at the Palms, closes down, and then you have a club like Dre's, which is just making enormous amounts of money? Why is one club successful and another one is not? We'll discuss that as well coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Hey, have you heard that ransomware attacks have increased by 500% this year?
Yeah, cybercriminals are targeting all types of businesses, encrypting their data and holding it hostage unless they pay up.
What if we're their next victim?
Don't worry, we have Barracuda to detect, prevent, and recover from ransomware and other advanced threats.
So we're secured?
Absolutely. We'll pay no ransom and keep this business up and running.
That's a relief.
Protect your business at Barracuda.com. Barracuda, your journey secured.
Hey, it's Brian Shapiro from the Vegas Take Care, and now it's time for Infinity's Fun Fact of the Day.
A checkerboard has 64 spaces. If the first space had 1 checker, the second space doubled it to 2 checkers, the third space doubled it to 4 checkers, and so on. By the 36th space, you would have a stack of checkers that could reach the moon. The 64th space would reach another solar system.
Don't forget to visit themathinstitute.com for more information on how to make your child the most successful student they can be.
Looking for that perfect new piece of furniture for your home? A New Concept Furniture is the place to start and end your search. They'll beat any price on the internet, and they're here locally so you can feel what you're buying first. Go to A New Concept Furniture today at 4255 South Grand Canyon to see for yourself the slick, modern, shiny store that mirrors our shiny city. A New Concept. Check out their showroom or call them at 702-570-2240. That's 702-570-2240.
V is for victory, except on Saturdays when V is for veterans. That's Veterans Talk, The Forgotten Promise. Join us every Saturday from noon to 1.
Veterans Talk every Saturday at noon on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
Hi, this is Sabrina Chapman inviting you to join me every Sunday from noon to 12:30 p.m. for my new show, Mommies, Meetings, and Mimosas. We'll be interviewing the leading Las Vegas ladies that are handling business and motherhood like a boss. Only on 101.5 FM, 720 KDAWN.
Imagine a time when no one person has Parkinson's disease, is debilitated by a stroke, and no family suffers the tragedy of Alzheimer's. Some of the best minds in America are doing more than imagining. The American Brain Foundation is seeking to find cures, where life without brain disease isn't just something we can imagine, it's something we can know.
Join Kevin Sorbo in the fight to cure brain disease. For more information, visit AmericanBrainFoundation.org.
Whoa! There are some moments only the forest can inspire.
Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Steve Sanchez, weekdays 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON.
You can't let that happen to me.
Guess what? It didn't happen to you, you dummy. Anyway, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. Wrapping up a wonderful show, if I do say so myself. I'll pat myself on the back, But anyway, coming up tomorrow, Mark Sanford, presidential candidate. Been wanting to interview him for a long time. I never have had the opportunity. So this is going to be a lot of fun talking to him. I guess you could say controversial figure, interesting guy. A lot of questions to get to him. Also, Darcy Spears, reporter. She will be doing our Dirty Dining segment, which has become very popular. What are some of the restaurants? You always hear about some of the great restaurants in Vegas, and trust me, there's plenty of them, as you know. But there are some places you just don't want to go to that are disgusting. Darcy Spears will be joining us tomorrow, her weekly segment, to talk a little bit about that. And then TMZ Sports' very own Mike Babcock will be joining us on the show tomorrow as well. So tomorrow's going to be a good show, jam-packed, a lot of fun. We talked a little bit last segment about Kaos nightclub at the Palms going to be closing down. So here's my question. I don't go to these nightclubs anymore. I did in my early 20s. I don't drink very much, and I don't like the music. I think it's awful, okay? But why is it that a nightclub like Dre's nightclub is making like billions of dollars, right? Enormous amounts, boatloads of money, and yet a Kaos nightclub has to close down? Why is that?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
Kaos has no theme. They're just kind of throwing stuff at a wall, hoping that it fits, like EDM, Cardi B, G-Eazy. Dre's sticks to their urban theme, and they do it better than anybody in town. Also, the location of Dre's is so much better than the Palms, in my opinion. But the Palms, they saw how Encore Beach Club did such a good job. But again, Encore Beach Club, what is it? It's a beach club. Dre's is an urban nightclub. Kaos doesn't know what it is. They're just not sure of what they're trying to do. But they're spending a lot of money thinking that it's going to work. It just comes down to poor planning and marketing. They just did not market it correctly. And the name Kaos, it's supposed to be soak backwards. It's the worst name ever. Why would you go to a place called Kaos? You don't know what you're going to get out of it. It's kind of like how the SLS. It was SLS. It meant some like social. Well, it didn't mean anything. If you want to make it in Vegas, you have to have a theme, a consistent brand. And Kaos brand was inconsistent, and just like SLS's brand was inconsistent. Like now the Sahara, it took the SLS's place. It's on Sahara. That's the theme. Treasure Island. It's supposed to be an old pirate ship of something like that. It's a theme. There was no theme with Kaos, and there's really not a theme with the Palms at this point. They're just kind of throwing money, hoping that something works without actually having a consistent brand. And one thing Dre's does is they are the best at hip hop and urban music in Las Vegas, and that's known nationally.
All right, well said. You have a lot more knowledge when it comes to these nightclubs than I do, that's for sure.
And then beyond that, like I said, the people that go to those concerts, they don't have enough money to spend in the casinos.
All right, we're going to take a 21-hour break, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow morning, folks. Have a great day.
The only FM news talk station in the Valley. 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Taylor's testimony, Don Jr.'s tweet. I'm Mike Moss.
He had learned that the directive had come from the president.
Correspondent Manu Raju reports the just-released transcript of the impeachment inquiry testimony from Ambassador Bill Taylor has him linking the president to blocking the release of U.S. military aid to Ukraine until Ukraine agreed to investigations that included the Biden